episode number 8. We are still in our apartment unit. It is still a little echoey, and we are still building out our studio. So it's going to be a little while until we get in there, until we have guests. But I hope you've been enjoying some of the content we've been putting out, because our goal is to pretty much share as much information as we can from an entrepreneurship standpoint, from a contractor, from a real estate investing standpoint. And a lot of it's just based on my personal history and experience that I've had just in business. So coming off a really busy weekend for us, my one son last week had basketball practice and then football practice Monday. And then Tuesday he had a basketball game and then a baseball game. Wednesday was a basketball game and then a football practice. Thursday was basketball game, baseball game. Friday was 2 baseball games. Saturday was a baseball game. And then Sunday could have been between 1 and 3, but we actually got rained out. And then my other son had football on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And then my daughter had dance on Monday. So in the midst of all of that, my wife and I have to find time for ourselves. And obviously I've got multiple businesses. I've got a lot going on. So it's hard to manage time sometimes, because we have so much going on. But again, at the end of the day, for me, what's the point of doing all this if we can't share it with our friends and our family? So last week's episode was faith, family, and fitness. And I know it's cliche, and I'm not really teaching a lot of things that people don't know. I'm just saying it in a different way, which is my way. And it's important because you've got to have your mind right. Okay. You've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your family. And part of that is, it's managing your time correctly, and then making sure that when you're in business, that you're spending your time focusing on the clients that you should be focusing your time on. Okay, so episode 8 today is titled When to Walk Away. Okay, and I think that's important because especially when we first start our business, we need jobs or we need clients, okay? And we spend a lot of time, money, energy, effort just trying to get that first client. Sometimes we have no idea where they're going to come from. And once we have that first client, we just want to grab them and hold on to them and just, do our best job. But we don't want to lose them. Okay. And I've been through, I would say at least 10,000 projects. I could probably very easily document 10,000 projects just based on going back to spreadsheets and books and stuff before we had an actual system managing. But I've got about very easily 10,000 projects under my belt, and that's in roofing, flooring, restoration, HVAC, general contracting, and just various different types of projects, right? And over that time, I've figured out, what's a good client, what's a bad client. And I have a opinion of the fact that the customer is not always right, okay? I don't believe that. And there's Google reviews, and there's Yelp reviews, and there's the Better Business Bureau, and there's the Registrar of Contractors, and there's all these things out there to grade and rate businesses and contractors and realtors and all these things. But there's nothing out there to grade the client, right? And some people would think that it's frowned upon to do that. But if I've got friends that had a bad experience with the client before, let's say that they did, their exterior paint, and then they're referring us to do the roof. I want that referring party to tell me, hey, this client's great, but these are the 3 things that they really care about, or these are the 3 things we had issues with, or these are the 3 things that you need to focus on. Or I'm going to refer you, go out and take a look at it, but just don't take the job on because these are the problems we had, okay? And it's hard to walk away at the beginning because, again, we need that work. But there's certain things that we need to look at. And what I've tried to do is break that down in 3 different situations, or the 3 most popular situations that we're going to run into. The first one is, so we do a lot of business to business, right? And when you're doing business to business, a lot of times, I'm going to send my contract to my client, but they're going to send me their contract back. So sometimes I have to sign their contract. Sometimes they take my contract and embed it into their contract, which basically makes two into one, which means we both accept the terms and conditions of the deal, okay? Well, I've got two specific situations just this week alone where when I have a new client, and this is every time they send me a contract, I send my attorney, their contract to read and review the terms and conditions. And I would say 8 out of 10 times, there's very minor issues that me as a business owner, I have to decide, like, let's say they require a 5-year warranty and we're only at 2 years, or there's, the interest rate on late payments, I want 1% a month, but they want to pay 0.75% a month, right? And so as a business owner, I've got to decide, are those worth me having that business for a long period of time? Is it worth it for me to accept those terms, or do I need to reject the contract or, accept it with changes kind of thing? Because when you review the contract, right, and you go through and you say, these are the 3 things that I have issues with, okay, that's a negotiating point. But you have to remember that that person who wrote that contract has signed that contract with several people or businesses just like you in the past, okay? That means they've got, let's say they have 100 contracts signed with subcontractors like me. Now they're going to have 99 of them with the same exact contract and 1 of them with a change. So they might not accept the change or changes that they've sent to you, because for them, they don't want to identify like, man, I've got 30 different companies out there with 30 different problems with my contract. It's not standard. It makes it too hard for them, okay? So you have to accept the terms of their deal or walk away, okay? Well, this week, I'll give you 2 examples. Number 1, there's a very large solar company here that wants to do roofing. They want to hire us to do their roofing, okay? I don't know what their experience is with their existing roofer. It doesn't really matter to me. I know how their experience will be with us, but they want us to do roofing work for them. So basically they sell a solar deal. They get up there and they say, look, we can't put solar on this house because the roof's in bad shape. So one of their adders, or one of those services that they provide to their clients, is now they'll hire the roofing company. They'll just include that in the contract and the finance agreement, okay? So we would be a subcontractor to that company. So that exact scenario came up where I just gave you the interest rate on late payments and the warranty, okay? So I'm okay with dealing with the interest rate because realistically, I'm not really gonna have to enforce it, most likely. But in the event that I do have to enforce it, I know the rate that I'm going to go after for late payments. Basically, there's a value of the money that's owed to me, and in theory, I've got to borrow money to pay my bills while I'm waiting on your payment. So my money costs me money, okay? So you should pay me interest on late payments. That's the whole premise, okay? So we agreed on the 1 term. The 2nd term is the warranty. They want me to go up to a 5-year warranty. In the state of Arizona, the Arizona Registrar of Contractors requires 2 years of warranty on a project. So typically that's what we do, because the majority of our stuff is new construction, whereas other companies are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Okay, our standard warranty is 2 years. This client requires 5 years. We said not a problem. The 3rd thing though, there's something called indemnify or indemnification. In that contract, it requires that me as the subcontractor indemnifies my client in the event there's a lawsuit. And what that means is I have to defend them if they go to court. That is standard language. But generally speaking, it's a mutual indemnification where the contract states that we defend each other. Okay, it's like your wife, okay, or your business partner. Like we're literally in a marriage, basically in that contract when we go to do business with a client. Now, we might have an argument behind closed doors about, hey, it's your fault, whatever, okay, but we deal with that together. But collectively, we defend one another in court if we have to. The way the contract was written is it's one way. So we accepted 2 of the 3 terms. We told them we can't do it unless you do the mutual indemnification. Their attorney or in-house attorney, whoever that is, came back and said, we can't change this. So I'm at the point now where I have to walk away. Okay, well, I just put my attorney on the email thread and I had them explain it in layman's terms, like, guys, literally this is what you're asking my client to do is, even if it's not his fault and he gets sued, like you guys aren't going to defend him. So for me, it doesn't make sense. Now, second one is there's a very large movie theater in town where we have a contract, a potential contract. They've already approved our estimate. Okay. And they sent us their contract. Now this is a giant corporate outfit, and my attorney has to read all their contract, all their addendums, everything. And it gets back to me and it's like, hey, this is probably the most dense contract that I've read. I want you to go back and read it and understand, beyond the work that you're doing, all of the requirements of your subcontractors, all of the requirements of your scheduling, all of the requirements of your invoicing. I want to make sure that you understand all of this. To be honest with you, it's probably not worth my time. Sure, I want the deal. It's $25,000, okay, and a relatively simple project. But if one of those things doesn't go correct according to the terms and conditions of the contract, I am now breaching the contract. And that just opens you up to a massive amount of issues with the ROC. You're in the breach of contract. Okay, they can sue me. They can back charge me. There's liquidated damages. There's a lot of things in there. So as a business owner, I have to sit and think, is it worth it to me to do business with someone who has a contract written obviously to protect them, but it's not like fair and equitable? Okay. So that's the first thing. And I've got several examples. Like we're onboarding right now with one of the companies that the insurance industry refers work out on behalf of the insurance carriers, right? And we've gone through months and months of this background check, and they've inspected our facilities and our trucks and our trailer and our equipment, and we've had to give credentials and licensing and insurance and sign a contract with them and prove that we have all of the certifications. Like there is a massive amount of work. Well, then it got to a point where they've approved us. Then they sent me 10 more contracts to sign for every single carrier. And I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not going to do this. Like it's just too much work for us to manage as a, small to mid-sized company. They're making it very difficult for us to do business with them. And as a business owner, again, based on those terms and conditions of that contract, as much as I want that work with that company and those multiple jobs over a long period of time, I just don't know that it's worth it for us. So we're probably going to walk away from all three of those companies, okay? Because we're just not really set up the way that we should be. No, it's not that we're not set up the way that we should be. We're just not set up the way to do that type of work, okay? So the next part of it is, it kind of plays into this, right? So from the beginning, let's say that you're trying to get a new homeowner client, right? Whether you're selling real estate to them, whether you're selling roofing or flooring or HVAC or anything like that, right? There's some telltale signs to me that you need to be weary of certain clients. At the very beginning of business, we want that deal. And not only that, we have a lack of experience in being able to vet clients that we actually want to deal with. And some of that is we're blinded by the fact that we need the work. Okay. And so we don't have the experience in understanding certain, mannerisms or comments or, historical dealings that other people, like we just don't see it because we're kind of blinded. Like we think that, we have this opportunity and we're vibing with these people, right? And everything's going great, but we're not picking up on some of the comments and things. And I'm going to give you a couple examples, right? Historically, everybody says you need to get 3 bids, okay? And I believe in that to an extent, okay? If you're doing an insurance job, right, the homeowner's not paying for it. They should just choose whoever it is that they feel most comfortable with. There's no reason why they should go and hire call 3 companies, have 3 companies come out, right? You're dealing with their lead management, and then they've got an internal process, and then they've got to send somebody out, right? And then they've got to inspect it, and then they've got to pitch you on the good, better, best, and they got to, come into your home. And there's just a lot of time involved in that, right? So an insurance job, it's not really worth it, but on a standard, homeowner project, it probably is. You need to do the research. You need to make sure that whatever money you're spending makes sense. Now, 3 is pretty standard. Sometimes people will do 4, but when I get a call from someone, it's like, hey, I was a referral by this person. I've already had 5 other companies come out to bid my job. Would you come out and price my project? Generally speaking, we're going to turn down that opportunity. Okay. And the reason for that is they've already got a range of price. And a lot of these companies that we compete with on the retail side, they're great at the sales process. They're really good at good, better, best. They're really good at follow-up. They've got automation and the things that they're doing with text message and emails. And literally, if you go to our website, it says we are no frills. Like we don't pressure people. We don't go, call them and text them 1,000 times. We come out and either we earn your business or we don't. And I understand that that's not the typical or right way of handling a client, but generally speaking, our jobs are referrals. And so we're not approaching them. Their referrals are repeat business. So we're not approaching them as like we're only going to sell them one time. We want to educate our clients and we want them to buy from us because of the fact that they've already dealt with us or somebody they know. And if they choose not to because of a price or something we didn't upsell them, then it's probably better off for both of us, right? So if they're getting a ton of bids, like more than necessary and it's excessive, that to me is a bad sign. Okay, I would just be careful of that. I'm not saying to walk away, especially if you're new in business and you think you really need to earn them, but we're not a company that sells on price. We're a company that sells on quality and service. And if they don't have somebody picked out by the time they've done, 5 or 6 of these, bid processes, then I probably don't want to deal with them. And it's probably better that we don't. The second thing is we had a client of ours that was a referral in Arcadia and we're doing a house for her, and she doesn't live here. We've never actually met. The roof was like $25,000, and we're doing the project. And there's a guy that drove by. I think he walked his dog every day, and he just loved our people. He watched us the entire time. He has us come out, and we price it, and then he sends us an email this long, like literally, it would look like this with all the bullet points and everything, asking about the manufacturer, of the shingles and the underlayment and what type of ridge are we using? What about ventilation? Oh, by the way, I called, the O'Hagan Vent Company. They came out and they drew this out and they said this is exactly what we need to do from a ventilation standpoint. Oh, I also contacted the manufacturer for this and they're saying that we need to do it this way. We should delete the bird blocks. And like he just went overkill. Turns out he's an engineer, right? And I've dealt with a lot of engineers and architects and doctors and attorneys, and sometimes you get into the weeds of certain things that don't necessarily matter, okay? But on the back end, it's really, really, really going to matter to them. And some of the things that they ask, it makes me and my tummy feel like a certain way that I'm just like, in my gut, right? In my experience, I don't think this client's going to be right for us. It's not that they're difficult. It's just that I understand how our company is set up and I understand that people need to do their research, but you also have to understand that at a certain point in time, it becomes excessive. Okay. Overanalyzing, the bid process. And then once you actually have a bid, then they overanalyze absolutely everything, right? You're going to start to see a trend. Okay. Then you find, let's say you answer all those questions and you say, hey, we want, a 50% deposit or 25% or 75%. Oh, well, so-and-so is doing it without any money down. I don't care how they run their business. It's not how they run their business is their business. How I run my business is my business, okay? I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm not even trying to compete with them, okay? This is the way that we run our business. So what ends up happening is the next thing you know, you're trying to get your deposit. They don't want to pay it. Well, if they don't want to pay a deposit, what do you think is going to happen on the back end? You don't think they're going to overanalyze, from the beginning, hey, you didn't communicate right, or there's tire marks on my driveway, or you missed this one nail, or I don't like the color you spray painted something. You're supposed to send me your warranty. Okay, why don't I have my warranty yet? Well, you haven't paid me yet. Okay, well, you didn't tell me that I had to pay you in order for me to have a warranty. You just go through this whole circle, okay? And if you pay attention from the beginning to some of the things that were going on, then at the very end, you're kind of like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that job, okay? Now, the good thing is you can look at that whole process, and that's where you start to develop that gut feeling to understand, okay, and that's that in the future, you probably don't want to deal with a client like that, okay? You've gained that experience, you've paid for that education. Hopefully you got paid, okay? But you have to really start planning this out from the beginning, and you have to really start listening to your gut and training your people and understanding, like, you can use that person as the example during your lead process and your project management and your closeout. Use that person as the standard, okay, on the next one. Know for a fact that you addressed everything that person gave you a hard time with, whether you got their job or not. Train your people to do that on the next job so that you can address all those things up front. And then if you still have a problem, you would know for a fact that you did everything you could to address it from the beginning. You were prepared for it. And if you have to walk away, you're going to walk away knowing that you made the right decision. I have a client in Arcadia where COVID hit. And during that time, the inflation started, right? Pricing on everything went up. And this particular project had spray foam, metal roofing, metal fascia, concrete tile, and a walk deck, all on the same project. There's very, very, very few people in the whole state of Arizona that handle the level of home that does all of those types of roofing systems, okay? Walk decks, generally speaking, very specific. Metal roofing, generally speaking, very specific. If you do metal roofing, you probably don't do fascia. Some of these guys do, but a lot of them don't. If they do, they don't do it right. I know that from experience. I fixed a lot of roofs. Spray foam is relatively common, okay, but still very specific. Tile roofing, just about everybody does it. Big job. I want the job. Repeat client, okay? Got myself into a situation where, if we bid the job, let's say in January, we probably won't start it till sometimes the following year, but generally it's 6, 8, 10, 12 months down the line. And a lot can change. Labor rates go up, fuel goes up, material goes up, material availability goes down. Like, there's all these things that you're dealing with, right? So I get into a situation, okay? And this is gonna get into my segue for the next point. Get into a situation where I tell the client, hey, I want this job, but my prices have gone up. Here's my new price. And they get back to me like, hey, Dan, can you double check all your numbers, make sure you're good? And I'm a numbers nut, okay? We measure our blueprints with a tech. We have a process of making sure that we check our math, and then we enter everything into a tech with templates that are already built, where I've already spent a lot of time making sure the math works out. So whatever the output is, I rely on that number 100%. So this client hires this roofer, and he ruined everything. Legitimately, it was the worst spray foam roofing system I've ever seen, okay? And so I walked out there, and after they dried the roof in and they started on the metal and they did the foam and they waterproofed the walk deck, they were having leaks all over the house. So I go walk the house. And even though I didn't get the job, and I walked away on my terms because I was too expensive, it was hard. I mean, this roof was like $80,000, okay? It was hard. It's a repeat client. I don't want anybody else sliding in there. I don't want them to have the opportunity to have the work down the road. I had to walk away. I had no choice. I had no choice because of the parameters I put on myself, okay? I could have chosen to do the job, but he didn't change his price. He kept it the way it was, okay? They ended up buying it out, I think, at $57,000. I think my price, the new price, would have been $77,000. They have these issues. They call me back. I'm not the type of person to crap on the roofer or crap on the builder because they didn't hire me, okay? I walked away, and they said, Dan, we have a problem. Can you come look at it? So I go out there, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, who did your fascia? And they tell me, and I said, good. That is the only thing that's done right on this house. Everything else needs to go. How do I know the fascia was done right? I've done so much ultra high-end stuff, it'll blow your mind. The guy that did the fascia worked for me for 15 years. So he has his own company now. He still, we still communicate, we support each other, etc. He's one of the top 2 best metal guys I have ever seen, hands down. That is why when I saw that fascia, I'm like, whoever did that did it right. He didn't do anything else in the house. Metal roof was bad. Everything was completely bad. I gave him a price to replace everything. It was about 50% more than my higher number. They ended up not hiring him or hiring me. They tried to get the guy to come back and fix it. My guess is they're going to end up in a lawsuit here very quickly if they haven't already. I do know there's people not being paid on the job. And at the end of the day, like what I avoided in that situation, because I went with my gut, because I relied on my math, I trusted everything, it saved me literally a lawsuit, okay? So walking away from existing clients is sometimes easier than walking away from new clients that we've tried to gain. Sometimes it's harder. There's times where, like I got my license in 2017 in August, right? We're 2024, so it's almost 7 years. When I started my company, I went back to some of my old clients that I had, and just about every one of them hired me back. Well, at that point, they're just a one-man operation and they're running a job or two, and then, we're small. As you grow, sometimes you outgrow your clients and sometimes your clients outgrow you. And I'll give you an example. One of the most well-known builders in Arcadia was a lot smaller when I started working with them. Well, then they started hiring, this construction management team and the supervision team and, this internal accounting team and a design team and all this. And my contact with the owner is getting further and further and further away. Well, every time they hire somebody, each one of these people has a guy. Oh, no, we got to call this guy. I worked with him forever when I was at this company. Or, hey, I know this guy. He went off and started his own company. He used to work at this company. They weren't that good, but I know he's great. And so every single time they hire somebody else, okay, or they have to bring somebody else in because your price doesn't work, and then all of a sudden they get sold a bale of goods, you end up losing out on opportunities, okay? Well, I've had it happen where some of these guys grow too fast and they start to make, they put this team in place, but they're not used to managing them or the numbers or whatever. And it starts happening where it's like, hey, you're too expensive, you're too expensive, you're too expensive. Well, I'm constant. Like I have been constant forever. Your model's changed, okay? You guys are now getting 3 to 5 bids on these projects, and you're separating the metal from the tile, and you're getting all these different vendors to save money. It's also creating more management for you guys. I'm full service. And our margins have been what they've always been, independent of what the market's doing and everything. I don't charge you more when times are good and less when times are bad. We're just constant, okay? And so when your model's changed and you've added these people and they brought in these other, roofing contractors to price your stuff out, okay? It's just not working, and that's okay, okay? So I've had to walk away from situations like that, walk away from jobs and walk away from clients. I had a client that hired me for the first time 20 years ago. We've had a great relationship ever since then. He's pretty laissez-faire, like kind of surfer, skateboard guy, but he's a builder and he builds really nice stuff. And I worked with him for a long time, and he just chewed my butt one day. And it was just out of character. We had a really good relationship, and I also know he was running into some issues on houses that he had bid that he had no recourse to raise his prices as inflation occurred. And so he had a couple projects out there where he's like eating all these costs, which I know that I'm smart enough to recognize what's going on. I know how to read a room really well, and I understand finance and real estate and construction and project management and inflation. I understand all that stuff. And so I've got a pretty good pulse on what's going on, especially in custom homes. So this guy's going through this rough time, and he's, yelling at me and this and that, whatever. And I'm like, man, something just doesn't add up. So I give it a couple days, and I call him back. I said, hey man, I understand where you're coming from a business standpoint. I understand that you're frustrated and you feel like we're not communicating well, but I'm going to take care of that. Do you feel like we've taken care of it? He said, yeah, Dan, things have been way better ever since that conversation. I said, okay. I said, besides that, how are you doing? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, when we were talking, you just had a different look in your eye that I've never seen before. And as a person, man to man, I just want to let you know that I care, and I want to know that you're okay. I could care less if he ever hired me again. I care less if he was offended. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss out on that opportunity to make sure that he was okay as a person, as a man, as somebody who's helped me feed my family for a long time. He said, no, I'm good. I'm just having a hard time with all my subs and managing these projects and whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. A couple weeks go by. He's on a situation on a project where for some reason he decided that he needed to hire my guys that had worked for me for 20 years out from under me with the help of my project coordinator who was employed by me. She lost her job because of this. They both lied to me. And it was very suspect. And I felt it in my gut. And I told everybody in my office that had anything to do with managing this girl, hey, I know there's something going on. And I even asked the builder about it. And he told me no and whatever. And so he got back to me later and he texted me and said, hey, man, you're right. This did happen. And I'm sorry and I lied to you. I was in a tough situation. And for me, after 20 years dealing with this guy, I was blown away because I've never screwed somebody, at least intentionally. Like I'm not perfect and I've had issues, right? But I've never gone out of my way because of a situation I was in to hurt somebody. I've always taken it on my own shoulders. And I had contracts. I still have one that's left. I have contracts with this person where I'm required legally to perform. It doesn't matter what he did to me. I don't care how he treated me. It's my reputation and I will fulfill the agreement of all my agreements. But when that's done, I'm done. Okay, and it's very hard for me to say that and do that because this person literally was at my college graduation. They literally cut checks to support me in the nonprofit work that I was doing. They've literally helped me pay for my, put food on my table for a long time. Never one problem, okay? But I have to walk away. I can't deal with somebody who doesn't trust me and I can't deal with somebody that I don't trust. And then again, she lost her job because of this. So, sometimes your clients outgrow you. Sometimes you outgrow them. Sometimes they put you in a really tough situation where you've got to decide, like you've got to walk away. But at the end, I promise you, if you start to think about, like, don't set yourself up for failure where you're questioning everybody all the time, because you're going to ruin your mindset. Okay. Everybody's not like that. And the vast majority of my clients are not like that. And I've kept just about everybody from a client standpoint. Okay. But you have to know that you are making the right decision and you have to roll with it. Okay. More often than not, 9 times out of 10, when I've walked away from a job, I haven't regretted it. But when I haven't walked away from a job that I knew I should, I have regretted it. I got one right now. Actually, I'm done, paid, everything's fine. But he is the owner rep for the largest project going on in the state of Arizona right now. It's massive. It is a global company, and I did his personal house. And I told him from the beginning, I just don't think that we're right. And he basically said, come on, Dan, do it. Because he knows the metal that we do, knows the fascia. My guys are phenomenal. But I just remember this guy from like 10 years ago and just being like, he worked at Intel. He's just a very high level thinker, borderline elitist. He made a comment to me one time. He's like, wow, Dan, for being a roofer, you're really hard to get a hold of. And I'm like, it's because I've told you to deal with my project coordinator the entire time. She literally does all the scheduling, all the communicating, all the material ordering, everything. She does everything. Why is that? Because I've got 1,000 other things that I'm doing. Okay. And I'm not great at communication. Literally, the reel that I posted today was about the fact that I'm not good at communicating and I have to hire somebody for it. I'm just not good at it. Okay. I can't be everything to everyone. And that is why I have to elevate and delegate. And I have to have people in my company that do things that I'm not good at. I have to pay someone. And when I tell you blatantly, you need to talk to this person, you got to talk to this person. It's not because I don't want to talk to you, because I enjoy to talk to you, okay? I'm just not always available. I literally started this episode with the fact that I'm massively busy outside of work. I'm massively busy inside of work, okay? But I have really good people around me. And that's why I have a team. I can't do this on my own, okay? So when I say you need to deal with this person, I've already communicated that with you multiple different ways. you got to communicate with that person. Okay. So I didn't walk away from that job. Job turned out excellent. Okay. But towards the end, we had issues on punch lists and, final payment and issues with payment terms. And it's just like everything that I've talked about in this episode, I didn't do. So again, like all my other episodes, I'm trying to tell you from experience the things that you should look for to avoid the mistakes that I have made myself. I didn't have somebody that I could rely on like you do to tell you, hey, look out for these 3 things or look out for these 5 things, okay? And trust your gut. It's gonna suck a couple times, right? And you might walk away from a lot of work, but you might walk away from a lot of problems, okay? So anyways, we're at 35 minutes. I'm doing my best to keep this as simple as possible. I don't think I said too many times, okay? We're wrapping up episode number 8. Again, it's when to walk away, okay? And this is Dan the Roofing Man on the Creative Contractor Show. Thank you very much. Like, share, comment, post, send me recommendations, anything you have, anything you want to hear about. I'd greatly appreciate the feedback. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Tyler literally rips me every time that I'm in this room. He hates the lighting. He hates the echo. He thinks it doesn't look great. I think it looks great, okay? And I know it's going to be better. So it's all part of the journey. Thank you again.